I stood outside the boardroom door, my hand trembling as I held my phone, the voice recorder still running. My business partner of 32 years had just said the words that would destroy everything I'd built. Once we vote him out, the company's ours. The old fool won't see it coming. Let me back up. 3 months ago, everything seemed perfect. I was 64 years old, ready to start thinking about succession planning for Caldwell Industrial Solutions, the manufacturing company I'd built from nothing in my garage back in 1992. My son Michael worked in our Seattle office. My daughter lived in Boston with her kids. And I trusted my business partner, Richard Thornton, with my life. That trust died on a Tuesday afternoon in March. I'd left my reading glasses in the conference room after our morning strategy meeting. When I went back to get them around 4 p.m., I heard voices. Richard was in there with someone. I was about to knock when I heard my name. "David's getting sentimental," Richard said. "Talking about legacy, about taking care of the employees. He doesn't understand that Meridian Corp is offering us $90 million for a hostile takeover." My blood ran cold. Meridian was our biggest competitor. A woman's voice responded. I recognized it immediately. Jennifer Park, our CFO. The woman I'd promoted just 2 years ago. What about his shares? He owns 51%. Richard laughed. It wasn't the laugh I'd heard over countless lunches, golf games, and late nights building this company together. This laugh was cruel. That's why we need the board vote. I've been documenting every decision he's made for the past year. The failed Portland expansion, the equipment upgrades that went over budget, that recall last October. But those weren't his fault, Jennifer said. The Portland market crashed because of... Doesn't matter what caused it. What matters is how it looks on paper. I've got 3 board members ready to vote him out for incompetence. Once he's gone, I'll control his shares through the partnership clause. We sell to Meridian, split the money, and retire. David gets nothing. I'd written that clause myself, 30 years ago, when we were 2 kids with a dream and no money. If either partner was removed for cause, the other gained control of their shares. It was meant to protect the company. Now it was going to be used to destroy me. My phone was in my hand before I'd even thought about it. I started recording. "What about Michael?" Jennifer asked. "David's son works for us." "First one fired," Richard said flatly. "Can't have David spy in the company. We'll give him 2 weeks severance and a box for his desk." They talked for another 10 minutes. I recorded every word. They had it all planned out. The board meeting was scheduled for 6 weeks from now. They'd already drafted the resolution. They even had the Meridian contract ready to sign. When I finally heard them stand up to leave, I slipped into the men's room down the hall. I locked myself in a stall and sat down on the closed toilet lid, my hands shaking so hard I nearly dropped my phone. 32 years. I'd worked beside Richard for 32 years. We'd survived the recession of 2008 together. When his wife died of cancer, I'd sat with him in that hospital room for 3 days. I'd been the best man at his second wedding. Our kids had grown up together. And now he was going to take everything. I sat there for maybe 20 minutes, feeling like I was going to throw up. Then something changed. The nausea turned into something else, something cold and focused. Richard wanted to play chess? Fine. But he'd forgotten something important. I'd been playing chess since before he was born. That night, I sat in my home office until 3 a.m., making plans. My wife Barbara found me there at dawn, surrounded by papers and empty coffee cups. "David?" She stood in the doorway in her bathrobe, concerned. "Did you sleep at all?" I looked up at her. We'd been married for 41 years. She knew every expression on my face. What she saw now made her close the door behind her and sit down. "Tell me," she said. So I did. I played her the recording. I watched her face go through the same journey mine had. Shock, hurt, anger. When it finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "What are you going to do?" "I'm going to let them think they've won," I said. "And then I'm going to destroy them." Barbara had always been the calm one, the voice of reason. But now she smiled, and it wasn't a nice smile. "Tell me how I can help." The next 6 weeks were the most stressful of my life. Every day, I had to go into that office and pretend everything was normal. Shake Richard's hand, laugh at his jokes, sit through meetings while he and Jennifer exchanged knowing glances, thinking I was too stupid to notice. But while they were busy being smug, I was busy building my trap. First, I called my lawyer, Tom Morrison. We'd known each other since law school. I played him the recording. "Jesus Christ," he said when it finished. "David, we can sue them into the ground with this." "No," I said. "I don't want to sue. I want to beat them at their own game." Tom leaned back in his chair. "I'm listening. Here's what most people don't know about board meetings. They're governed by very specific rules, corporate bylaws, parliamentary procedure, and most importantly, quorum requirements. Our bylaws stated that we needed 6 out of 8 board members present to vote on removing an officer. Richard had 3 votes locked down, plus his own. He needed 5 total to outvote me, Michael's seat, and the 2 members I thought were loyal. But what if they didn't have quorum? "I need you to find a reason for 2 board members to be legally unavailable," I told Tom. "Nothing illegal, nothing that hurts them, just unavailable." Tom thought about it. Then he smiled. "Martha Greenwood serves on that nonprofit board in D.C., right? The one that evaluates federal grant applications?" Martha was one of our board members. 67 years old, sharp as a tack, and obsessed with her charitable work. "What about it?" I asked. "What if that nonprofit suddenly had an emergency meeting scheduled for the same day as your board meeting? Something too important for Martha to miss?" I saw where he was going. "Can you make that happen?" "I sit on the board of directors for a foundation that donates to Martha's nonprofit," Tom said. "I think I can convince them they need Martha's expertise for a very important grant decision. In Washington, D.C., on that specific Thursday." "That's one," I said. "What about the other?" Tom drummed his fingers on his desk. "Paul Rodriguez. He's getting close to retirement age, right? Paul was our oldest board member at 71. Good man, honest. But Richard had been working on him, playing up the David's making bad decisions angle. "He's thinking about it," I admitted. "What if Paul suddenly had a very attractive consulting opportunity in Tokyo?" Tom said. "For a company that desperately needs his expertise in manufacturing logistics. Starting the week of your board meeting, all expenses paid, generous consulting fee." I stared at Tom. "You can arrange that? I have clients in Japan who owe me favors," he said. "Big favors." While Tom worked on removing 2 board members from the equation, I focused on the other piece of the puzzle, evidence. See, Richard thought he'd been clever, building his case against me, but he'd made one critical mistake. He'd done it all on company servers, using company email, during company time. I called our IT director, Sam Chen, into my office. Sam had worked for me for 15 years. His kid's college fund existed because I'd given him a raise when he needed it. "Sam," I said, closing the door, "I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. Has anyone asked you to pull emails or documents about me?" Sam's face went pale. "Mr. Caldwell, I'm not mad at you," I said quickly. "I just need to know." He slumped in his chair. "Mr. Thornton, 3 weeks ago. He said it was for a performance review. He wanted copies of all your emails regarding the Portland expansion and the equipment purchases. Did you give them to him?" "I had to. He's an officer of the company." Sam looked miserable. "But Mr. Caldwell, he was only pulling the negative stuff. None of the context. None of the emails showing why those decisions made sense at the time." "It's okay, Sam." I pulled out a legal pad. "Here's what I need you to do." I had Sam create a complete backup of the company's servers. Not just my emails. Everything. Richard's emails, Jennifer's emails, every document, every spreadsheet, every presentation for the past 5 years. "Make it look like a routine backup," I told him. "Something we do quarterly for disaster recovery. Don't tell anyone what's really on it." Sam looked at me for a long moment. Then he nodded. "Consider it done, sir." 2 weeks before the board meeting, Tom called me with good news. "Martha's going to D.C., he said. Emergency grant review meeting. She already sent her regrets about missing your board meeting. And Paul? On a plane to Tokyo, 2-month consulting contract. He actually thanked me for the opportunity. That left 6 board members, Richard and his 3 conspirators, me and Michael. But We still had a problem. Without Paul, one of my board members was actually one of Richard's plants. I'd counted wrong. Richard had 4 votes. We'd have a 3-3 tie, with Jennifer as CFO holding the deciding vote as board secretary. I needed one more thing. The Monday before the Thursday meeting, I came into the office early, like 5 a.m. early. The building was empty except for the night security guard, Bob, who waved at me as I went up to the executive floor. I let myself into Jennifer's office. Now, before you think I'm some kind of criminal, understand that I had every legal right to be there. I was still CEO. It was still company property, and I wasn't there to steal anything. I was there to leave something behind. I placed a tiny audio recorder under her desk, stuck to the wood with industrial adhesive. The kind we manufactured, actually. Strong enough to hold airplane parts together. It would record for 72 hours straight. Then I went back to my office and waited. Thursday morning arrived. I got dressed in my best suit. Barbara straightened my tie and kissed my cheek. "You've got this," she said. I wasn't so sure. My hands were sweating. My heart was racing. This was it. 32 years of my life, my entire legacy, everything I'd built, all coming down to what happened in the next 3 hours. The board meeting was scheduled for 9 a.m. I arrived at 8:30. Richard was already there, looking confident. Smug, even. "David," he said, shaking my hand. "Big day today." "Yes, it is," I said, matching his fake smile. The other board members filtered in. James Cartwright, one of Richard's allies. Susan Morrison, another one. David Lee, the third conspirator. Michael came in, nodded at me, and sat down. And finally, Henry Walsh, the last board member, who I'd thought was loyal to me, but had apparently been bought by Richard. Jennifer called the meeting to order at 9 a.m. sharp. "First order of business," she said, reading from her prepared script. "A motion has been made to remove David Caldwell as CEO of Caldwell Industrial Solutions, citing repeated failures in judgment and financial mismanagement." I watched Richard stand up. He had a whole presentation prepared. Slides, charts, graphs, all showing my failures. The Portland expansion that lost money. The equipment upgrades that went over budget. The recall. He didn't mention that Portland collapsed because of a market crash that hit everyone. He didn't mention that the equipment upgrades came in over budget because of supply chain issues from the pandemic. He didn't mention that the recall affected the entire industry, not just us. He just showed the numbers, made me look incompetent. When he finished, he looked around the table. "I move that we vote immediately on David's removal as CEO." "Seconded," Jennifer said immediately. This was it. "All in favor?" Jennifer asked. Richard's hand went up, then James Cartwright, Susan Morrison, David Lee. 4 votes. "All opposed?" My hand went up. So did Michael's. 2 votes. Henry Walsh sat there, looking uncomfortable. Then, slowly, his hand went up. For me. Richard's face went white. "Henry, we had an agreement." "I know," Henry said quietly. "But I've been thinking about it all week, Richard. David gave me a chance when nobody else would. He's made some mistakes, but he's not incompetent. I can't vote to destroy him. I'm sorry." 3-3. A tie. Jennifer looked at Richard, then at me. As board secretary, the tiebreaker vote was hers. "I vote to remove David Caldwell as CEO," she said. Richard's face flooded with relief. He started to smile. That's when I stood up. "Before this vote becomes official," I said calmly, "I'd like to present some evidence to the board." "What evidence?" Richard snapped. "This isn't a trial, David. The vote is done." "The vote isn't recorded in the minutes until Jennifer writes it down," I said. "And corporate bylaws state that any board member may present relevant evidence before a vote is finalized." "Tom, if you would." Tom Morrison walked in from the hallway, where he'd been waiting. He was carrying a laptop and a briefcase. "What the hell is this?" Richard demanded. "This," I said, "is your complete and total destruction." Tom set up the laptop and projector. The first thing he showed was the audio recording. My phone recording of Richard and Jennifer in the conference room 3 months ago, planning to steal the company and sell it to Meridian. The room went absolutely silent. When it finished, Susan Morrison looked like she might be sick. "Richard, is this real?" But I wasn't done. "Tom," I said, "show them the emails." Up on the screen came a chain of emails between Richard and Jennifer. Dozens of them, planning the coup, discussing how to manipulate the board, coordinating with Meridian Corp executives about the sale. There was even an email from Richard to a Meridian VP that said, "Don't worry, the old man won't know what hit him." And finally I said, "I'd like to play a recording from earlier this week." Tom hit play on the second audio file, the one from the recorder I'd planted in Jennifer's office. It was Jennifer and Richard, 2 days ago, rehearsing their presentation for today's meeting. "Make sure you emphasize the Portland losses," Richard's voice said. "Don't mention the market crash, just the losses." "What about Henry?" Jennifer asked. "You said he was on board." "He'll vote our way. I promised him the CFO position after we fired Jennifer. I mean, after we restructure." On the recording, Jennifer laughed. "You promised me I'd be CFO. You will be, for about 6 months. Then we'll bring in someone from Meridian and push you out. But by then, you'll have your cut of the sale money, so who cares?" In the conference room, the real Jennifer had gone absolutely white. "You said I'd be CFO permanently," she whispered. "You said it was our company after David was gone." Richard's mouth opened and closed like a fish. No words came out. I looked at the board members. "So here's the situation. You just voted to remove me based on a fraudulent case built by a business partner who was planning to sell this company to our competitors and steal everything from me, from Michael, and from every employee who spent years building Caldwell Industrial." I turned to Richard. "You forgot something, old friend. I didn't build this company by being stupid. I built it by being thorough." Tom spoke up. "Mr. Caldwell has filed criminal charges for conspiracy to commit fraud and breach of fiduciary duty. The police are waiting downstairs." Richard finally found his voice. "You can't do this. That recording is illegal. You can't." "Actually," Tom said, "in this state, only one party needs to consent to a recording." David consented. He was present during both conversations. And the emails are company property, which David as CEO had every right to access. I looked at Jennifer. "You're fired, effective immediately. You have 1 hour to clean out your desk." Then I looked at Richard. "As for you, our partnership agreement has a clause about breach of fiduciary duty. You're not just fired, you're forfeiting your shares, all of them." "You can't," Richard started. "I already did," I said. "Tom filed the paperwork this morning. You'll be lucky if you avoid prison." Henry Walsh stood up. "David, I owe you an apology. I almost went along with this." "But you didn't," I said. "That's what matters." The rest of the board meeting was short. We voted to remove Richard as a partner and officer. We voted to terminate Jennifer for cause. We voted to nullify the previous vote, removing me as CEO. Unanimous. Every time. Richard and Jennifer were escorted out by the police an hour later. I watched from my office window as they put Richard in a squad car. He looked up and saw me. For just a moment, our eyes met. Then the car drove away. Michael came into my office later that afternoon. "Dad, that was incredible." "It was necessary," I said. I felt exhausted, drained. "Are you okay?" I thought about it. 32 years of friendship gone. But was it ever real friendship if he could betray me so easily? "I will be," I said. That evening, I went home to Barbara. She'd made pot roast, my favorite. We sat at the kitchen table, and I told her everything. "Did you ever doubt it would work?" she asked. "Every single day," I admitted. There were so many things that could have gone wrong, but they didn't. "No," I agreed. "They didn't." 3 months later, we held a company-wide meeting. All 347 employees gathered in the warehouse. I stood on a makeshift stage and told them everything. Well, almost everything. I left out some of the more technical legal details. But I told them about the betrayal, about the plan to sell the company, about how their jobs had been at risk. And I told them that Caldwell Industrial Solutions wasn't going anywhere. The applause lasted for 5 minutes. Richard eventually pleaded guilty to fraud and got 2 years in prison. Jennifer got probation and a permanent ban from serving as an officer of any corporation. The Meridian deal, obviously, never happened. As for me, I ran the company for 2 more years before finally retiring at 66. Michael took over as CEO. He's doing a great job. Better than I did, honestly. Sometimes, late at night, I think about Richard. About those 32 years of friendship. About how I never saw it coming until it was almost too late. And I think about what he said in that recording. The old man won't see it coming. He was right about one thing. I didn't see the betrayal coming, but I saw everything else. And in the end, that's what mattered. Barbara asked me once if I regretted how it all went down. If I wished I'd just sued him, or confronted him directly, or tried to talk it out. I thought about it for a long time before answering. No, I finally said. He didn't just try to steal my money. He tried to steal my legacy. Everything I built. Everyone who depended on me. He was going to destroy it all and not lose a minute of sleep. So he got what he deserved? She asked. He got what he chose, I corrected. I just made sure his choice had consequences. Every year, on the anniversary of that board meeting, Michael and I have lunch. We don't really talk about it anymore. It's in the past. The company's doing well. Michael's kids are growing up. Life goes on. But before we leave, Michael always says the same thing. Thanks for fighting for us, Dad. And I always give the same response. That's what you do for the people you love. You protect them. No matter what it costs. Even if it costs you 32 years of friendship. Especially then.